Kinds of technical difficulties this morning. Good morning. I've had all kinds of technical difficulties, so I hope I have some viewers out there, but if not, it's okay. I like talking to myself too. Welcome to Mad PD. I'm Virginia Lowe, and I want to share some time this morning talking with you about giving kids something to talk about. As we work with English language learners, one of the things that I hear teachers complain about a lot is, how do I get kids talking? How do I have all these shy kids? How do I get them actively engaged? So today I hope that we can, share a few tips that will help you get your kids up and going and most of all talking. Um, but the big reason is, why do we want to do that? Of course, we want them to improve their English conversation skills. But the main thing is, if kids, thinking about our early elementary, even our newcomers who may be middle school and high school age, if we don't help kids master listening and speaking skills that help with comprehension, they are never going to master grade level reading comprehension. It's very important that kids are able to listen, to identify key information, uh, twists and turns and plots, and that they can articulate what those events are and how they impact the story. So it's important for us to provide opportunities for students to do this every day across the curriculum. Um, we have a lot of activities that we can use. Some of them are old. I was sharing with someone yesterday. There are very few things that I use that are my original ideas. Most of the things that I have, strategies that I use, are strategies that have been around for quite a while, and they impact the classroom. They have potential to do that, but they're activities that I borrowed from other people. So if I share something today and you said, "Hey, I shared that with her," yes, you did, um, because I think that's how we do. We steal from the best and use with what worked with us for students. Why do we do this? Because we want them up and talking. And how do we get started? First of all, is by establishing expectations in our classroom from day one. Even with those shy kids, making an effort to speak to them, to have them speak to others, even if it's just one word in the very beginning. And let me let me say here also that if the best that they can do at this point is to use their native language, then that's amazing. That is not a compromise in any way. That is allowing them to use all of their skills. And so if they are using their native language and there's someone else in the classroom who speaks that language, please allow them until they feel comfortable with English or at a certain level of proficiency to use the native language as they need, as a scaffold and a support, um, as they're building their English skills. So establishing the expectation that every day everyone speaks. And even if it's in English or Spanish or Vietnamese, if they're speaking, that they're speaking in complete sentences to one another, and not accepting the "I don't know," that we provide students with sentence stems and with questions that they can use or comments that they can make to show us they need more information or that they could ask a friend for help. So don't accept the "I don't know" or just a shoulder shrug, to be consistent with that. So you set that model for them. Also, it's about planning, because kids talking every day is not something that just happens naturally. We have to plan for it. So we have to think about, in that planning, what is it we want them to do? What is it we want them to learn? And what are they going to do with that language or the vocabulary, that content information once they have it? And then what are the scaffolds and supports that students need to be successful? And then how do you as the teacher need to model so that students can be successful? Just because we say it doesn't mean they get it. They need the visuals, they need step-by-step instructions, and they need to see someone practice that. Um, and what can we do to help students be successful? Maybe there's something they need to read, or they need to scan the passage ahead of time. They need to review math facts before they engage in the activity. What is it they need to help them be successful? So allowing them a chance to talk with other people before they answer out loud is another way of lowering that affective filter and scaffolding for them. Um, Whatever it is that we choose, being sure that we are consistent every day in these practices with students. There are lots of great resources out there. Some of my favorites, just to tell you about them, is the Talk, Read, Talk, Write strategy, structured academic discussions, the QSSA series, the chat stations, conversation cards and sentence stems, think, pair, share, um, the inner circle, outer circle. All of these are great activities that we can use. And if you just took two of those and perfected those in your classroom, it would make it an engaging and interactive activities for students. When I think about increasing student participation, I go back to something that I heard Zaretta Hammond say, and I think it's actually in her book, when she talks about how do we make our teaching in our classrooms more culturally responsive, that there are three basic things that we can do. First is to storify it. Second is to make it social. And third is to gamify it. And those are three very simple things. And I love the fact of storifying it. Anytime that we can present information in a story format by using that structure, it helps students, first of all, make that personal connection because so many cultures um, convey key information, important information through the structure of story. So by utilizing that in our classroom, it becomes a powerful tool. It helps kids make sense of the content when they can put it in that cohesive framework of a story. So anytime we can do that benefits our students. Making it social. Of course, we spend a lot. How much time do teachers spend telling kids to stop talking, to be quiet, when we really ought to be telling them, this is how I want you to talk. This is the conversation I need you to use. Let's take that natural skill that kids have, the thing they want to do, and let's use it to our advantage by providing them structured conversations, giving them guidance in what to say. Um, and the vocabulary that they need to use to strengthen their conversations, and then gamifying it. That novelty and the competition, not heavy competition, that makes it engaging for students and makes it fun. So, three simple things. If we can think about that as you're planning, what do we want them to learn? What do we want them to do with it? How am I going to scaffold it? And how can I make it social? How can I gamify it? And how can I storify it? Anything that we want to do. And so here's some ways that I do that in my classroom. One of them is just very, very simple. I love the dollar bin at Target. So one of the things that I found were these great little 3D figures. I don't know if you've seen these or not, but they're characters, they're people, and I love it because they're multicultural, and they're objects. They're flowers, and yes, there's even, wait for it, a unicorn and a carriage. So, first of all, I begin by introducing these items, doing descriptions, making lists of descriptions about them, and then, of course, We turn it into a story. We use them in stories that they already know, that are reprinted, and then it becomes a station for them in retelling. And it also becomes a tool for them to use in creating their own creative stories. So, giving them something to talk about, something tangible to hold. And if it breaks or it comes apart, it's okay. It only cost me $3 at Target, right? Okay. The other thing is a great little game that it's made just this great square. You see, I have the Velcro tabs on it, and I have tons of different kinds of pictures. These were part of an old curriculum set, and I put them, hole punch them, put them on rings for storage, and then they get Velcro on the back. And the pictures attached to the cube, and the students roll it, and whatever lands up top. If it's this one, maybe they're talking about the verbs. What is the verb? What are verbs that you can use or to a sentence with this? Or maybe it's a description. Or if it's a science activity, maybe it's talking about what is the weather, what is the season, and they have to talk about it. So it's roll the cube, picture comes up, and it's structured conversations around those pictures. It's not just random. It is very intentional, and again, they're working with a partner. They're collaborating in their time together. Another great little activity. I love, love, love the Dollar Tree has these bundles of cards. There's a set for the ocean, for land forms, for even American symbols. And they have these great little pictures. And then on the back is some information about the character. And the last part is always a creative writing prompt. And I use these in a lot of different ways. As you can see, I go through and I highlight what I think is essential vocabulary or maybe new vocabulary for the students, or maybe it's some enriching vocabulary for them. So with their partner, they read this. I may have them look up words. I may have them do a list of the words. I may have them do synonyms, antonyms, depends on the level of the student. They discuss it, and sometimes I have them do the written, but I always have them discuss the prompt. So it may not be a written assignment, but it is a oral assignment, and they can respond through Flipgrid, through Chatterpix, or sometimes they go to Seesaw and they have their picture, they give their oral response, and they record it. But they've always had an opportunity to practice with their partner before they do that. I love these little cards for $1. Look, this one even has an alliteration. Somewhat salty seawater. Isn't that great? I couldn't make that up for $1. Here we go. The another thing from Target uh, are these great little cards, these people puppets. These could be used for retelling stories. They're also, if you notice, they don't have mouths. So this is a way to get kids to use talk about emotions, feelings. They can change how the character was in the beginning of the story, how the character was at the end of the story, and they even come with their own little erasable dry erase marker. Awesome, amazing. Oh, one other thing from Target, if you've seen this, these little puppet screens, and they come with little finger puppets, or you can have kids make their own from paper, from all those coloring sheets. Instead of just having them color them, have them take the characters and cut those out and put them on popsicle sticks, whatever. It becomes a retelling tool. And this is not just for elementary. You can sell it to your middle school and high school kids as you're going to prep for telling your little brother and sister, or we're going to go visit, maybe even you take a field trip to visit an elementary school and retell fairy tales or fables. One other, I feel like I need to speak in defense of Think, Pair, Share. Recently, I was doing a workshop where I shared that and was told by teachers, oh, I don't do that. I don't do that in my classroom because kids don't ever really talk about what I want them to talk about. Well, And what it was really hard for me not to say and embarrass that person was, "Well, that's your fault because you set this expectation and you are the model for that." But I think Pair Share is a great tool for us to use in the classroom because it allows us to chunk our content. It gets students active. It provides that novelty. It can also be used, if you were a wise teacher, it could be used for your formative assessment. And there's almost no prep to it, but it does involve going back to that planning. What is our purpose? What do we want kids to do with the information? So, Think Pair Share is an awesome tool. We can talk about that at another time because I think I'm out of time. And the chat stations are another activity that I would encourage you to do where kids are up moving. You give them um, perhaps in social studies or science, it's a scenario that they different scenarios that they move around the room and they talk with their partners about. But again, the key to that is modeling. You as the teacher with a group of kids modeling what is it? What do I don't want it to look like? What do I want it to look like? What's the vocabulary I want you to use? What are the stems that I want you to use? We can't leave it to chance. It's too important, the job that we have. Planning and prep it's not a lot of prep, but it does involve some brain work and some time to put together the programs and to put together activities that we want for students to be successful. So, thank you for your time. I think I'm talking to myself because of all of this, but I hope someone somewhere will enjoy this. Thank you.